Okay, guys, so yesterday we wrote our introduction into our graphic organizer. So we have our summary statement, we have our bridge sentences, and then ultimately we have our thesis statement in which we tell the title of the story. We also mention what type of tone we're talking about, and we also have what type of imagery or figurative language or author's techniques that we're going to be talking about in our body paragraph. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use our graphic organizer to guide us through our body paragraph. Because this is an essay that only has one body paragraph, this body paragraph should be pretty chunky, okay? Because we're going to start with a topic sentence, we need to give context, we need to give our details, we need to give our explanation, and then we need to do it all over again with a second example. So when I talk about a chunky paragraph, I really mean it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to write my topic sentence. Your topic sentence should say what your paragraph is going to be about. So for me, I am writing about a magical tone. So I'm going to kind of look at my thesis statement. The story Cinderella has a magical tone because of Perrault's use of imagery and similes. And I need to, in a way, kind of reword that to show that that's what I'm going to be talking about here. So I'm going to say, Charles Perrault creates his magical tone by using similes and imagery. So even though that might seem a little bit repetitive, it is important to restate that for your audience. Notice it's not the exact same wording. So I did change it up a little bit. Otherwise, it would just be too repetitive, okay? So when we're talking about our details here, we want to use this kind of what I call a detail sandwich. The first thing is the context. You need to assume that the reader of your essay has not actually read the story that you're talking about. That means that you're going to have to catch them up a little bit on what's going on. You guys already talked about the basic conflict and solution in the story, the conflict being that Doodle is born and he can't walk and his brother is responsible for him. And then the solution, it's not a happy solution, but it's still a solution. The solution is that Doodle dies. So you have that, but you need to be able to orient your audience to maybe in the beginning of the story when the narrator is teaching Doodle how to walk, that kind of thing. Or maybe you'll say, near the middle of the story, the narrator and Doodle reveal to their family that Doodle is actually able to walk. Everyone is happy and, whatever. So you need to provide some sort of context here for what's going on. So if I do that, let me change my color here. Maybe I'm going to talk about, I have to kind of introduce this idea of the ball a little bit. So I'm going to say, after Cinderella's stepmother tells her that she may not attend the ball, Cinderella's fairy godmother decides to help. So I need to explain maybe one more thing here. What I've done is I'm trying to take you to the part of the story where this quote is. So I need one more thing. So I'm going to say she uses her magic to change a mouse into a coachman who will drive Cinderella to the ball. If I want to make it a little fancier when I'm actually typing it, I can. Maybe I want to talk about that that she goes to the party in a magic coach that's made from a pumpkin, that kind of thing, okay? So basically what I've done here is I've taken you to the point of the story where my quote is coming from. So I'm going to write, at this point in the story, Perrault writes. And this is where I'm going to jump into my quote that I've taken from my story. So I'm going to put writes, comma, and then I'm going to put my quote here. The fairy chose the one which had the largest beard. Touched him with her wand. And turned him into a fat, jolly coachman. And my quote goes on here. It says, and turned him into a fat, jolly coachman who had the smartest whiskers that eyes ever beheld. I'm going to shorten it just for the purposes of this video, but I want you to know that at the end here, I'm going to put my page number. So here's my author's last name, page 2. I'm going to close my parentheses, and then I'm going to put my period. The last thing I need is my explanation. So remember what we need to do in our explanation. I really want you to focus on kind of saying what your element of figurative language is, and then I need you to use that because. Using the word because is going to force you to explain. So I'm going to say this example of imagery. There's my figurative language. Demonstrates the tone is magical because. So important, that because. I'm going to say because it shows the fairy godmother's ability to make Cinderella's dream come true. Now we're talking about tone here, and tone is the author's attitude. So I'm going to add something about the author. This shows that the author believes in the power of magic. Okay? So what's interesting about this is I now have one detail done. I have my topic sentence, I have my context, I have my quote, I have my explanation. The next thing I need to do is transition to more context. So because I started with something at the beginning of the story, I need to transition using a transition word. Later in the story, or near the end of the story, or something like this. After whatever, you have to explain. I'm going to use later in the story for my context, excuse me. Later in the story, and then what happens? Okay? So if I say, and I'm not going to write all this out for you because I don't want the video to last forever, but what I'm going to say is later in the story, Cinderella loses her glass slipper on the steps of the castle. Perrault uses a simile, so I'm going to put actually simile in this one. Perrault uses a simile to describe how quickly she runs as she races against the clock to get home before midnight. Okay? So now here, I'm going to use the lead-in. The text states, and I'm going to put my quote with my citation, and then I'm going to do my explanation again of 1 or 2 sentences. So you will see the rest of my writing when you get to school, but for now, what you need to do is you need to do your topic sentence, you need to do context, quote, explanation. Transition, context, quote, explanation. Okay, so that you're using 2 examples from the Scarlet Ibis. The other thing that you need to do today is go into that document that we started, and you're going to actually type your introduction. You have it written. Here it is. First sentence is, the middle sentences, and the thesis. You just need to type them. Okay, good luck, guys.